Welcome to another episode of Who Gives a Hoot. I'm Luke. That's Kyle.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome.
It's been a pretty good week, I would say so far.
Yeah. We've been a good couple of weeks since we recorded. With some quality news coming out, but we're recording this on the 21st of September, so I think we'll remember this pod. So let's get into this. It is fall. We're getting into just about playoffs time, which brings us to the first bit of news. Union Omaha, first team in the league to clinch a playoff spot, followed up 2 hours later by
pretty closely. Yeah.
But we were the first.
We were. And technically North Carolina only did because of some people failing to win. So
yeah, that is true. And we came very close to not clinching playoffs there. But we did eliminate Chattanooga.
We did. Despite the very late goal yet again.
So yeah, this is fourth year of existence, fourth year in the USL League One playoffs. So huge accomplishment by the front office, by the ownership, and all the guys on the field this year to really come out of that early season funk and pull together what is now a 9-game winning streak.
Yeah, if you remember, it was about maybe 3 months ago now, 2 months ago, when we were just talking consistently, like it's almost there. It's almost, we feel like it's about to click. It's just something isn't clicking, and then it finally did, and it's been just.
I think it was right about the time they did the Treetop Adventure down at Fontenelle Forest.
Brought them together. It worked.
There's that chemistry. Either that or Luca and Marco started cooking for everybody. But 9-game win streak, longest in league history. We have, as somebody who I hit the panic button. I'm not afraid to say that I hit the panic button. There are things that still very much worry me, but we've been winning the games. We've been showing that tenacity to close them out and keep that last goal out.
Yeah, that's what it is. We've been doing well to score a lot and then not just let up one less goal than that.
One less goal. We're not doing great a goal differential, but that doesn't really matter too much right now.
Yeah, we'll see if it matters in the end. Depends on how many we end up points-wise. But, I mean, we're up there. We are currently third, but that's only because we are now a game in hand.
We are, and we've got 5 games left in the season. I can't remember the exact stat that's being shared around, but what is it? 7 games we've leaked a goal after the 80th minute.
I think it's because it's the one that I had done. It's I think 7 goals in the past 6 games we've let in after the 85th minute. Something like that. It's wild. I don't know if we want to talk about it right now, but I did break down the numbers for it whenever we want to talk about it.
Let's talk a little bit about the game in Chattanooga, because that was Chattanooga, as we've always said, is a very tough, hostile place to play. Very hard to hit the ground on. You saw guys on our side being very slow to get up from some.
You might break your ribs.
They at least had lights this time. It was played after dark. So no, that's a positive.
Mm.
If you didn't have, we don't necessarily have instant replay on the broadcast, but you could always see it on their giant ass screen. Uh, and
The corner of it, you can see the corner actually get taken from the very bottom corner of their giant screen.
yeah, the thing that was really depressing for me is they took the bounce house down in like the 60th minute.
I mean, the bounce house was the story of the watch party. We were keeping tabs on it the entire game.
Well, the thing that just surprised me is no player, just to clear the ball, just rocketed it in there to see if it bounced around. Like that's got to be somebody's got to try that before the end of the season on some team.
I mean, we'd seen it like go slightly over it. We saw it hit underneath it. We didn't actually see someone hit it. I mean,
No.
thankfully, to be honest, hopefully there are no kids harmed. But
Well, I mean,
yeah,
hopefully the kids watching the game because it's such an exciting match. There were 7 goals scored.
yeah, but Chattanooga's playing.
Yeah, that's true. Well, the wrong Chattanooga.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Uh, the physicality in this game. I mean, it's always tough going into Chattanooga, but it felt dirty. Like the fouls, Chattanooga ended up getting a straight red
Oh yeah.
with a awful challenge on Joe Brito. It just pure malicious in that tackle. Like not playing the ball, going in, essentially scissor kicking, studs up challenge. Like just one of the worst tackles I've seen in the league this year. And a well-deserved red. Ultimately, for what the standard for league reffing has been, I felt it was well officiated.
Yeah.
Like I have no major complaints. The cards against both sides I felt were deserved. Um, nothing that really jumped out at me as this ref could not be doing anything professionally. Which
Yeah, that was solid.
I mean, honestly, that's about as high a praise as I think we can give in this league. So we can talk about the goals. Marco got his first of the season here.
Off a beautiful JP flick.
Yeah, great that Marco gets his goal, but holy shit, that assist! Like, I put it online, but JP is forgiven his debt for his 35-yard owed goal because of that back heel flick to Marco that just so good. Like at any level, that assist is like I'm surprised that didn't make Sports Center. Like you occasionally see from the league get up there, but that back heel assist, I think it was probably just because the camera angle wasn't camera moved too quickly from it. But still, well done, JP. Well done, sir.
Yeah, and then I mean we have the first goal as well. It was a nice shot. It was well saved by their keeper, but we were just there. Steven was just there to pounce on it.
Steven has been great about keeping that pressure up. I hate when he tracks back because he's not fast enough to get up there quickly. But he has been doing a lot more work, seeing his influence in the team a lot more than beginning of the season. And he's been getting the goals. He's been creating the chances. So much better as the season's progressed, and I really think the 9-game streak is a huge testament to his ability to just be there, draw people out of position, and be dangerous when he needs to be.
There's been a bunch of times where like we've gotten that extra goal that we then didn't let up because it was like Steven being around or even doing a little bit of hold up play at times when he's been good at that.
Yeah. And past couple games, he's been hitting the deck a little bit less.
Yeah.
He has been a very big flopper throughout the season. Sometimes it's to our benefit, but
I mean, it could have been the hard ground in Chattanooga. We don't know.
It could have been. He is one of our older players and probably doesn't want to break a shoulder or knee or something there by hitting the ground. But we get a good lead. They get a red card, and we still barely squeak away with a win.
We played the ball up the field really quickly, so much so that one of their players was slowly jogging back because they were way up attacking. And then it came right back to us, and Lexi didn't see that one of their players was still back there.
Yep. Like it just was in baseball you'd call that an error.
Yeah.
And it was a tough game. Lexi was playing very hard. I don't know if the flashing lights were affecting him, but that was bad. That was just real bad. But it was not enough for Chattanooga to pull a draw. We were able to stay alive and see it through for 3 points, get a week off, and then pull into a game against Fuego at Union Omaha's now annual Oktoberfest.
Yeah. Playing the worst place team in the league on a short week for them because they played midweek.
They did. But before we get into that,
yes,
Marco and Steven both made team of the week.
Yep.
For
I think Joe was a bench as well.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see the bench, but that's definitely well deserved for both of them making team of the week. Really, really good to see Marco getting some recognition for his first professional goal. So
yeah, it does suck that a lot of times they don't put someone up on team of the week unless they've scored a goal as far as defenders go. So it's a little harder to get on there. I at least I feel like that. Maybe it's just harder for our defenders. I don't know, but
no, the fact that we've said for now 2-3 years on this pod that Dalton or Lal never made it onto team of the week unless it was just absolute lights out.
Unless they scored too, because I remember when Dalton finally scored late last year, he made team of the week that week. Or assisted or something.
Goal that counted.
Yeah, that counted. Yes.
So huge congratulations to those guys for making team of the week. And then on Tuesday, trademark Tuesday,
out of
nowhere, Union Omaha puts out a tweet in the morning. Would you like to meet someone new? And so we obviously thought that they were introducing a significant other for Hoot. Seems about the time of the year that would make sense.
Please no. Please never have that happen. Oh God.
Gonna happen. I mean, Hoot's the stuff of nightmares. What's more nightmarish than two? No, we brought in a defender. It seems as though our defense has been pretty heavily racked with injury. Luca, it sounds like, has a hamstring that hopefully will be back for playoffs, but hard to tell there. I know Sebastian Sanchez was mentioned. Where is he? Knowing that he was a lone player, I think it's safe to say probably something that ended up with him being recalled, whether it's injury. I don't think he's featured for Louisville.
Yeah, I haven't
So
seen him.
so I'm guessing probably injury and just being brought back. Makes sense. They're a more established pro side.
They have an NWSL stadium.
Yeah, they have facilities to accommodate a first tier team.
Yeah.
So if it is an injury and he's having to rehab, better there than in Omaha, where we're using partner facilities rather than dedicated facilities. So we bring on let's see, 2021
ASUN, Atlantic Sun.
Yeah, the Atlantic Sun Conference Defender of the Year, played for Charlotte,
Charlotte's
MLS
MLS next
Pro,
team.
which is
Yeah.
not Charlotte too. I'll give them credit for that. They did.
They tried some branding. I mean, I don't know if it's worked. I don't know if it's been any good, but they at least went the North Texas route.
They went the North Texas route, the Swope Park route, before Swope Park decided that it was no longer going to be Swope Park.
Tacoma Defiance for
Yeah.
a little while.
So, Dudley, last name. I'm horrible with first names. Dudley just makes me. It works. It's his last name.
Yeah.
Coming in, he's got professional experience. Medal, or he's won awards at the collegiate level. Should be able to, even if he's not fitting right into the starting 11, as we're dealing with injuries and depth challenges, as we always do at this point in the season with defense.
Yeah.
Should be able to be an impactful player off the bench if needed, or God forbid, fit into a starting 11 and not be out of place.
That is something, I don't know if we want to talk about it later, but I am curious if we think he gets playing time against the worst team in the league.
Well, I think that leads to a more important question.
Of course.
Is this a trap game?
I mean, I consider every game a trap game. If you need, like, yeah. I mean, at least as far as, and I know that you hear professionals talk about it all the time, but they try and take each game at a time. I know that doesn't always end up being like that, but they try and at least prepare that way. And I really hope we are. Fuego's not great, but they still have dangerous pieces, right?
Yeah.
And especially with how leaky our defense can be at times, that could be worrying if we aren't putting in goals.
And Fuego made some late season trades. They picked up a couple players later in the season that I don't know as though gotten a chance to get their full run out.
They picked up a goalkeeper who started last night. Like, it was his first game for the team, started against one of the top of the league teams. So
let a whole bunch in, but that may have been more defense.
One was a penalty. Yeah, it was a bit of defense, I would say, at the very least.
And they're on their 5th coach of the year, 6th coach of the year. Like them and Chattanooga both are cursed on coaches.
I really hope for better things for their organization. That's what I will say.
Yeah, there are a lot of things I've heard from secondary, tertiary sources on it that aren't worth repeating because I can't verify them. But it sounds like they're here to stay, but they're obvious. If you followed anything on social media, you can tell that there's a lot of tension between fans and players, to the point where one of their players was assaulted by one of their own fans.
Their own fans and their own player. Yeah.
In the stadium.
Yep.
Yeah.
They didn't attack an opposing team or anything like that. No, it was their own team.
Their own team, and that did end up online. The video is somewhere on X. Um, so
Twitter.
I know it's a terrible name.
But yeah, so I really do hope that their organization just I hope the best for the organization. But
Yeah.
right now it's not in a great state overall.
Yeah, and hoping next year with Spokane coming in, they'll be able to.
Maybe Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara's been a little too quiet for me to still believe they're coming.
Yeah, I after we had talked about that a little bit at the watch party, and I did go and look at their social media history. They were pretty active through the end of last year through the Men's World Cup.
Yeah.
Haven't really been since.
Yeah,
That's
and I'm
worrying.
wondering if that has something to do with locking down stadium lease.
Stadium. Yeah.
And it sounded like they were going to be playing at the college, but if they're not, if they weren't able to get the terms to fit exactly what they needed
Mhm.
to make it work for them, holding off another year wouldn't be the worst decision.
Yeah. So we'll see.
But-
But at least, but then if they do hold off another year, they still would have Santa Barbara then, and then they would also have a floated around team that has not been announced by the league at all, but was like a local source has talked about one in Lancaster, just north of LA. So
Yeah,
if they start filling in California a little bit,
I mean, getting some of those Pacific teams, I'd still love for a few more Midwestern teams.
same.
You know, getting anything to really solidify West Coast teams, because that was one of Tucson's biggest problems.
Yep.
Is they had nobody close to them, so they were spending so much on travel that just became.
Which that might be the case too, where if you start populating the West Coast a bit more with these teams, Tucson could potentially make that jump back up if the costs work out a little bit better then.
Yeah, and Tucson has said, I mean, they've not been inactive. They've floated around the, we're not leaving forever, but we're coming back once we can solidify new.
Did they play USL 2 this year?
I believe they played USL 2 this year.
So yeah, still at least around in some capacity.
Yeah, because Perlman joined the ownership for the USL 2 side.
I think so. Yeah.
That seeing them not dead fully with the potential coming back is a good sign for West Coast viability.
Yeah.
So let's jump into talking about what we think we're going to be doing against Fuego.
Do you think we see a new center back signing get to play?
No.
No? Okay.
I think to the point of we're taking it one game at a time. We're going to put in our best 11 in every game possible, and that's going to be the guys who have been playing it. Although with Lexi's back pass last week, does lead some questions like whether how he's doing it, keeping his head up in later stages of the game.
I will say I'm not worried about it too much overall. I feel like it was a mistake, but it was a mistake, and you learn from those things. So I don't think it's that
luckily
big.
he had an offer for.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason I'm thinking about it more is because we've been having Marco play left center back because Luca's been hurt.
Yeah,
and so we've had to utilize Shaft and Dion every game and bring Anderson on because Dion can't really go the whole game. So we've been having to do that every game. So I didn't know if to give a little bit more flexibility, if we might try throwing him out there, pushing Marco left to at least rest maybe a little bit. it's not a ton of rest.
Well, are you upset that we're seeing Dion and Shaft every game?
No, I'm not. I'm
I-
not.
Well, 'cause
I
that's where I'm looking at is Marco hasn't unimpressed as a center back to me. Like
that's fair.
he's been doing well in the position, and the speed on the wings with both Dion and Shaft out there, it spreads the opposition. They're not focusing on Shaft quite as much because Dion's just as dangerous on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So we're able to break down their defense better because they're getting broken. We're able to play more through the midfield, and I feel the control of the game is better when you have both of them out there at full speed.
Fair. I mean, I thought Marco had been doing well on the left as well, but I can
Yeah.
totally see that argument as well. We did finally get Cheeto back too. Something to note.
Yeah.
So,
and at least one of those goals, two of those goals, I'd say Cheeto would not have been able to save. So it looked like one of them had a deflection in the Chattanooga game, and then the other one he got left out to dry.
I mean, he couldn't do anything about the last one.
Like he could have, but it would have been a straight red.
Yeah.
So,
so you think no change in defense? What about midfield? You still go with the 4-2-3-1? It's been working.
Yeah, I mean, I could see us starting younger guys in the midfield. So maybe not Connor in there. I mean, I've liked Connor because Connor's distribution while playing a 6 has been so good.
My thought is we're going to stay with our 2 holding, and we'll do Connor and JP, but we might switch up the 3.
Why not put Shivani in on this game?
I mean, if we want to, totally.
Like,
we'll see if Connor can come off the bench. Then he's got a streak currently.
how many games is he away from his 100th appearance?
His 100th appearance would be Madison, the final game of the season, of the regular season.
Assuming he has an appearance in every game.
Yeah.
And Cheeto
he's like a 95 game streak. Cheeto is close because he was injured. I think the first game of playoffs would be his 100th if he plays every.
So, 2 guys getting really close there.
Mm-hmm.
I can see Connor coming off the bench, but I'd like to see somebody else out there in his position. I think you see Eddie start this game.
Mm-hmm.
No, shift Eddie over Gil or Gallardo. JP definitely captain out there always.
Because so one of my questions was, if you have Eddie in that 3, then who's your other 2 up there? Brito, right? Probably.
Brito or
because one player who's been coming in and playing in that wing position recently has been Noe, coming back from injury. He hasn't been taking the lone striker spot. That's been Stevens. He's been taking the wing spots.
Do you think Noe's at probably back at full fitness here to start a striker?
I don't know. He's getting close to it, but I don't know if he'd start. I think you still see Stevens start. I think you might have a chance to like sub in Steinwasser. Especially, I don't know if you saw their little clip of advertising the Stein with Steinwasser. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him come in and play striker. But I would I'd be curious to see if they might try, instead of getting him on as a sub, if they start Noe and have him go like 60 minutes, just to see
Yeah.
how that feels for him. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did that on a wing too, just because that
Yeah.
with the formation, that's where he's been playing lately.
I could definitely see that. Dos Santos has been in good form at the 9, but at the same time, this is a game where really
You still
any
need to
of our guys
score.
score. Well,
Yes,
but I mean,
You say that, but we still need to score.
well,
Because just say, we're probably going to let in a goal.
at least one.
So we probably need to score.
It's going to be in the 90th minute, and Dos Santos will be off, and we'll be on our second lineup anyway. I think that'll be the striker spot's the one I'm not convinced on this week. I think Steinwasser would be a good option up there. I think Noe, if he's back full fitness, could be good up there. I mean, heck, even Pedro up there. Pedro's been doing very well.
And well, I mean that brings me into my question with the 3, especially when you're talking about having Eddie start. Because my thought would be you have Pedro as the 10, you have Joe Brito on one side, you have Noe on the other, and then like a Steven or a Steiny up top.
At this point in the season, I'd probably have Pedro over Joe Brito. Brito, I think, give him a rest against this team. He was a little slow to get up after that tackle.
Oh, that's fair.
I don't.
He was the one the red card was on. Yeah, the foul was on. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if he was injured off of that, but the contusions from hitting the ground there would be enough in my mind to warrant take a week off before doing a late season push against the top teams.
Especially with the next game being North Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah. And North Carolina is his home turf.
That's true.
So, that'd be rest him this game, get him in the starting lineup against NCFC, let him tear up there and finish out the regular season real strong.
I could see that, I guess. Yeah.
Do we see Shido or do we see Ian? It's something we didn't talk about.
Yeah, I guess my thought is we see Shido purely because he still had been coming back from injury a little bit, so I feel like he's still kind of working himself back into it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him this game just to kind of continue getting into the flow again.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Ian. I'd say that, but I would think that he might still have this one.
Because Ian's first game was against Fuego, wasn't it?
Oh boy. Maybe. I don't remember for sure off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that because we've played out there once and they played here once so far this season.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the previous Fuego game was.
Was that one of the Caniglia games?
No, because that was Madison and North Carolina were those ones. No, we played there twice. Okay. This is their only time coming here this year. That's what it is.
So if they have a pretty new roster, this will be their first time at Werner Park.
It will be.
They don't have a whole lot of guys who've played a lot in the season or a lot in the league.
I think Falk. I think they do still have Victor Falk.
Yeah.
Who used to be on the kickers. I think they might have a couple of holdovers from last year who did play here twice. But other than that, yeah, I don't know how many more they have.
So Werner Park might be a strong advantage for us. The weather is also going to be an interesting one.
Oh yeah.
So hoping that the storms come in early that day, but it is looking like there's going to be lightning, thunder, and heavy rain.
I don't know. From the last I saw, watching the weather last night, and of course it changes so quickly because models do. But it sounded like it was going to rain all through, like right up to about game start time,
Mhm.
and then there would just be a break until like midnight, and then it would start again after. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not a rain out.
Yeah, I don't think we'd see a rain out at this point. Storm chasers are done for the season, and we only
Would
have
they
one.
stay and play on Sunday?
I mean, there's not a whole lot of time to make up, so that would make the most sense.
Yeah, I don't know. It really depends on Fuego's flight schedule too. So I don't know.
And whether or not they can look.
Yeah.
Other things of note for this game. It sounds like Parliament is not going to be on the berm for this game. They're going to be in section 119, which be the first time you have all of the supporters groups, the loud supporters groups in one section.
It is interesting too, because I remember when we were first starting Parliament and talking with the team about where to place Parliament, it was definitely considered doing 119 as well, and we had talked about that a little bit. So it'll be curious what it's actually like there, since I haven't been there.
Yeah, and remembering back to the very beginning, I believe the discussion kind of ended when the ticket prices were going to be $5 more per game to be in the seats versus in on the berm.
I think it was a little. I think there was a little bit more to it than that, but I think that was one of the factors.
Yeah. But definitely going to be interesting to see, hear the difference. The one thing, Parliament has always been very loud on the berm, but putting drums on grass eats up a lot of, looking at it from a strictly acoustical standpoint, it eats up a lot of the sound versus when, the example from, what was it, 21, when Madison came down in force.
Yeah.
And they put them in like
a great spot.
115. They put them in the most acoustically sound spot in the stadium with bass drums, and that's all you could hear all game. Which credit to them for coming in hot. But having that concrete backing for the drums to bounce off of and broadcast onto the field, I think is going to be a huge benefit to the stadium experience. It'll be weird.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah, it'll be just the empty berm end. Yeah, I'm sure it won't be empty. But.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll see more families and blankets out there. Since that is prime spot, let kids roll down the hill, etc.
People stepping right up to the edge all around there. Then, yeah.
So it'll definitely be interesting. I imagine they'll still have smoke on that end with the professional pyrotechnics.
Yeah, probably.
So it's going to be an interesting experience. I believe the 119 sections 119 and 120, at least half of those sections are going to be GA for this match. Which, if you're interested in finding out what it's like to be on the other end, slide on over there, check it out, buy a general admission ticket, and you can get in on the supporters trial experience over there.
And give feedback as well. That's another thing they were specifically talking about is they do want people to give feedback on what the experience is like. Those both in the section and outside the section. If your seat is somewhere else, how was it? How was the experience different? So
let both the supporters and the team know if it's something that could work in the future. Anything to make Werner Park a fortress until we have our own stadium, which has been awfully quiet of late.
Yeah.
And it seems like, based on Twitter, Gary Green, owner of the team, will be in attendance on Saturday.
I think I did see that. Yes.
So keep an eye out for him. He'll probably be ripping the first smoke grenade down with the supporters. That seems to be kind of his MO. Give him fire and smoke. He's all for it.
I don't know. He might be doing the owner suite smoke. We'll see.
He might. Maybe he'll do more than one. He'll do one with each.
Yeah.
Or just jump back into the 6 goals we're going to score.
Yeah, for all those goals.
Hey, I mean, 4 goals against Chattanooga, who I think had a better defense than Fuego has had.
I think it was 3. I think it was 3-2, not 4-3.
Or am I thinking 4-3?
That was North Carolina.
Yeah, sorry. We keep giving up goals late in the game, and
it tends to blend together. Yeah.
Yep. It's been 2 weeks, and so either way, we've been scoring goals. There'll be chances for smoke, hopefully. I'll knock on wood. Yeah. Trying to think.
So I don't know if you had Twitter questions, because I did want to briefly mention a couple things about, speaking of scoring goals, about like some of the stats on how we have been scoring goals recently.
Yeah. The only question I saw specifically was after Rich's post game article, and we kind of addressed that with like what's happened to our defense, where's it gone. I think we talked about that earlier. Probably enough to cover there. But yeah, the goals, when goals have been scored against us, has been circulating on Twitter and the forums. And you said you'd pull together the breakdowns.
Yeah, essentially, I was just curious about it as well, and so I went and found the stats, because that's what I do. I mean, first, I do want to briefly mention our goals scored, which is a little bit of weird to me. How it's almost evenly split. We've scored 25 goals in the first half and 24 goals in the second half throughout the season. And in this 9-game run, it's been 12-12 in this 9-game run per half.
That's kind of impressive with the split.
Yeah, it was a little weird to see that.
Yeah.
Now, throughout the season, we've let in 14 goals in the first half and 24 goals in the second half. In this run, it being 3 in the first half and 10 in the second half. Now, specifically, even more than that, 90-plus minute goals after the 90th minute. The whole season, we've let in 10. So 10 of the 38 goals we've let in, almost right about a fourth, have been after the 90th minute. If we include the 80 to 89th minute, it's 13. So it's closer to a third.
Those stats make me bring up a question I have, and it was brought up a little bit at the last team talk. Jay versus Dom. Jay Well, the way he is often described by his players is almost more drill sergeant. The typical American style of fitness first, everything else comes second. Uh, Dom seems more tactically minded, but are we missing out on that fitness that's hurting us towards the end?
That is an interesting question. I'm curious if it is fitness or if it's that we get complacent. Um, I don't know because so many of the games um, I guess I didn't pull the exact stats for it, but so many of the games that we have let up those late goals in, we've either been like drawing at the time or winning at the time.
Mm.
So there might be a sense of complacency there.
Well, with the complacency, it, we've given up multiple goals. Like we've given up multiple goal leads uh, towards in second halves of games uh, to come really close to losing or drawing, um, and that's where I think after that first goal is scored by the opposing team,
Hmm.
complacency should be out the window.
It should.
And I don't think our guys have the mentality that to me screams that they're becoming complacent later in the game. That's where I'm
Okay.
falling to the physicality, the fitness level of them. If it's just mental tiredness because they're physically tired, rather than they're complacent because we're in a decent spot.
Yeah. I guess if we want to talk about this run specifically too, right? Like
Yeah.
we've let up 13 goals,
Mhm.
3 in the first half, 10 in the second. So 13 total. Of those 13, 8 have been in the 80th minute or later.
Yeah. And I mean, this has been a tough stretch that we've won these 9 games,
Yeah.
but it's
I mean, I'd say it's been up and down. There've been some tough teams. There've been some not as tough teams. But like
every game is a tough.
Chattanooga, Chattanooga, Richmond, just on the grand scale, like every game is tough. But like when you compare places in the table, some are easier than
Terzaghi
others. But
less Richmond.
that is true. At Terzaghi, less Richmond.
Uh, so I'm not. I just from seeing the guy talk, from
Mhm.
seeing their actions, I really can't put it at complacency. I
Okay.
don't like. I
So
fully
so
bought it.
so you definitely think it's fitness.
I think it's fitness. And if you listen to Dom's talks that they've been putting out, is like
Mhm.
minute and a half blurbs after the games. He talks about the mentality of the guys being able to hold on, everything there. Uh, he's always harping or really pulling to their mental toughness, their mental fortitude on being able to hold on to a win. Uh,
Mhm.
I, I feel like his tone would definitely change if he thought it was complacency.
That's fair. Yeah.
So I've if they're not fully fit or not fit to do a full 90 at 100% at this point in the season, will they be come playoffs? Like that's my worry at
Well,
this point.
yeah. I mean, I think it's a fair worry.
Uh,
Especially, it really depends on how we use our subs too. Which there's
yeah.
been times when Dom has been really good at using subs. There's been a couple instances where there's been a little questions asked, but
So, and I think the times where he's not been great about using subs have been times where our subs are guys who are coming off of injury.
Hmm.
They're like, granted, we don't get injury reports, so we don't know which guys are coming off injury.
Yeah, that's true.
Love League One for that. But
What do you mean? Mueller is on the injury report.
yes,
After how long did he finally get put on it? And now he's just kind of been on it.
at a certain point, they had to start giving answers.
Mhm.
I'm not sure where we'll be after this Saturday, because you got the other teams playing. We'll still have a game in hand on most.
So
But it,
so yeah, there's 4 weekends left in the season,
Mhm.
right? 4 weekends. We have 5 games. That's why we have 1 midweek game left.
Yeah.
But a lot of teams don't. A lot of teams are. It's only us in Greenville, I think, that have an extra game right now.
Yeah.
And currently, we are 1 point behind both NoCo and North Carolina, who play each other on Saturday. So if they draw and we win,
Yeah.
we're a point ahead and a game in hand.
So are we really wanting that draw?
I would love that draw between them. Because
All
then
right.
it gives us a lead with a game in hand.
Who's officiating that match?
I have no idea. I haven't looked at anything. Sure,
Let's
sure you can find out.
yeah, let's put some of our resources on that and see what we can do to make that happen. We do not condone match fixing on this pod, but we're also not saying if a draw happened because of the reffing that we would be upset. Just
I am
putting
not
that.
giving any. Yeah, I'm not giving any money to anyone.
I'm not offering money, but there are ways. What other results do we want to see Saturday?
So
What other results help us?
Madison has a big week because they took a point and honestly probably should have won. They missed a penalty at the death against NoCo on Wednesday night. And so they play Charlotte. And if they win, they jump Charlotte. They'd actually go to 4th, and Charlotte would drop to 5th.
That would put us into a more fun position going to them last game or last day of the season.
Yeah, and well, it'll be interesting too because if Charlotte wins, it gives them a bigger cushion, but it also puts them closer to the top 3, and we play Charlotte still in that midweek game. So I'm curious where Charlotte is going to land as far as how much effort they're like going to put forth. Like, are they on the bubble? Are they potentially missing playoffs? Right. Because then after that, I mean, we play North Carolina, we play Charlotte, and then we play Tormenta, the second last game of the season. They play 1 Knox this weekend. Both teams are just out of the playoffs. So I don't want to say a loss will fully knock a team out of the playoffs because it wouldn't, mathematically at least.
We're close at this point.
But it would really hurt. So if 1 Knox were to beat Tormenta might not be in the running by the time that we play them.
And I mean, they saw the talented squad, but that talented squad hasn't equated to success this year.
Yeah, they've been trying to make a late season push, and they beat North Carolina for us, which was very, very nice of them. Thank you. They didn't do it against NoCo, but they did against North Carolina.
Every year they've been in the season or in the league, they've done a late season push.
Yeah.
Like it just feels right. It feels like USL League One.
That's true. That is very fair.
And then they'll miss the playoffs by a single point.
I mean, last year they didn't, and they went on to win.
Last year to win, but we're getting back to the equilibrium.
Because yeah, I think they have. If I just look at it really quickly here, yeah, they're 5 points back at Greenville right now, and Greenville still technically has a game in hand. Greenville also has one of the easiest schedules left.
Watch
Like,
them.
they could. Their next two, I mean, they play Richmond, and then they do play NoCo, so that's a more difficult game. But then they end with Fuego, Chattanooga, and Lexington. So
Oh,
if they don't make playoffs, they only have themselves to blame, really, if they don't make playoffs.
All right. Saturday score prediction. Go.
I'm gonna go 3-1 because I don't think we can keep a clean sheet.
All right. 6-1.
Okay. Not your normal.
Breaking from tradition. But I'm feeling this is a chance to really pull ourselves ahead goal differential. And I think we need to take advantage of that at this point.
That's fair. I do think we do. I do think we can't get too far ahead of ourselves. Like we're picking decent wins, right? But we can't get too far ahead of ourselves. We need to be sure we actually do get some goals, actually do win. But if we get the chance to run up the score, it'd be really nice to do so.
Yeah, like we need the win. We can't slop on the defense, but running up the score, what it do for morale of the team, what it do for the goal differential, and what it would do going into the playoffs for the fan base and for the club itself. A team that has a 6-1 win or more, that's easier to sell tickets to for that Wednesday game or a home playoff game than a team that's squeaking by with 3-2 wins here and there.
Yeah, and we're 4 goals behind North Carolina right now, and we're 7 behind NoCo.
Yeah.
So if we can make some up, because this is probably going to be one of our only games we can make some up.
Oh.
So we got to try if we can.
Yeah. All right. There. 2 home games left. Saturday against Fuego, and then Wednesday, October 4th, which is Rashid Nuhu bobblehead night. First 1,000 people through the gates get a Rashid Nuhu bobblehead. First ever Union Omaha bobblehead night. There's some cool new merch for the Oktoberfest game, limited edition scarf and T-shirt. Also a Stein package.
They have the Stein, and there's the tailgate, the team sponsored tailgate for Oktoberfest outside the stadium, starting at 3. Again, hopefully it's not rained out, but we'll see.
Well, last year they had a huge tent out there, so.
But hopefully it's not rained out, because if you get some lightning and you get some wind, anything can happen.
It's Nebraska. We'll hang out.
Oh, the tornado over there. Ooh, cool.
Ooh. Hey, they didn't say anything about how close a tornado is to cancel a game.
It's a mile away. We're fine.
Yeah, like the lightning's 5 miles or more. We're good. All right, Kyle. I have one question for you. Who gives a hoot? We do.
We do.